Hi everyone, Mike Hancock here, Chairman of the Circle of Excellence group of companies. And today we are going to be talking about the future, your future, in fact, with Charlotte Kemp. Now, Charlotte is a past president of the Professional Speakers Association of South Africa, which she pretty much molded into what it is today, I would say. But yeah, she's putting her finger across her lips there and saying, no, don't tell anybody that. But I definitely think you did mold that, Charlotte. See, there you go. That's that cheeky look you've got on your face. And then she spent 4 years on the presidential leadership team of the Global Speakers Federation, where she was president in 2023-24, if I've got it right. Yeah.
Sounds right.
So Charlotte's a well-known futurist and also is a bit of a Star Trekkie. I wouldn't be surprised if something behind you there on one of those shelves isn't straight off the Enterprise.
Yes.
Yep. So be prepared for some stuff. I can't do the fingers thing though, Charlotte.
Oh,
Still, no, there it is. Yep, she's got it. Okay. Over to you, Charlotte. Welcome.
thank you very much, Mike. So no Star Trek today, but we are going to be exploring our future identities. And this is some content I've been working on. I've written a series of books focused on people in leadership, people at boardroom level who need to make decisions about their organizations for the future. And a lot of the content is practical. There's a lot of tools. There's a lot of content. There's things that we can work with. But something kept tugging at me. And this is the expression of that tugging. And why shouldn't we explore something a little bit more exotic, meaningful, maybe touch esoteric? So I want to talk about our 5 futures identities, the identities that we can embrace as we think about ourselves in the future. And the reason is that the world that we're in at the moment is saturated with tools. We've got so much data. We've got so much intelligence and frameworks, but we don't know how to interpret them. We don't know what to do with that. And the tools that we're using, the artificial intelligence, it has outpaced, in many cases, our consciousness, how we think about ourselves and about the work that we do. I'd like you to think about your clients, the people that you work with, if you're coaching them. Are they experiencing any of these stresses about the pace and complexity of the world? It's faster and faster. It is way more connected. Things that happen in one part of the world absolutely affect things in other parts of the world in a way we haven't experienced before. Does that affect your clients? Does that affect you? Are you experiencing any kind of psychological stress? We've got all these metrics, all this data, but there's no real soul. If we feel like a lot of the work we're doing is shallow, the tools we have allow us to create so much more. But are we taking advantage of that creation and that opportunity to be more human? Or are we just trying to keep up with things the way it's always been? Do our identities begin to feel fractured? We don't quite know who we're supposed to be anymore, or what we're supposed to be doing. And if you're asking the question, who am I? If your clients are asking the question, who am I? Then we need to understand that answer before we move into the future. And if you're asking, who am I? Well, then I am Charlotte Kemp. And as Mike so graciously introduced me, I have spent a lot of time in the speaking world. I am a professional speaker, but I spent time in leadership roles in the association, in the federation. So I'm an association nerd. I am a futurist. I am a strategist. I am an author. I've written a number of books. Uh, there's lots of things that go onto my LinkedIn profile. I've recently started identifying a bit as a coach, which I've always avoided in the past, but it turns out I'm fairly good at. I just need to get some qualifications and structure to that. But I am all these things that go onto a business card or a LinkedIn profile or that other people might introduce me as. But deep down inside, the part that I don't announce to everybody is I am a professional creative. I wake up in the morning and I have to create something. And it might be for work, or it might be something I'm creating at home. It might be written, it might be spoken, it might be crocheted. It might be crafted in some other way. But I think of myself as a professional creative. I am here. I wake up to create. And if I haven't created anything, I feel a little bit uncomfortable. I feel like I haven't really achieved anything if I can't experience that joy from bringing something new to life, a new idea to life, bring new worlds into reality, new opportunities for other people, new potential futures that we can explore. And you are creatives too. In the work that you do, because you're part of Circle of Excellence, because of how you think about the future, because how you plan where you're going to live and how you're going to invest your money into homes that other people will be in, you are creating as well. And what better thing to create than to create the future? You might hear me say a couple of times when I say the future, I actually use it as a plural. It's futures thinking. We're creating many potential futures. And the reason that it is plural is because there are many potential futures, just as there are many actual right now experienced present moment realities. We're all in this meeting together, but we're all looking at it through different lenses, different facets. So we're experiencing and expecting something different. And if this moment can be so multi-potential, then the future definitely is many. So we want to look at creating the future intentionally, consciously, for ourselves, and working with the clients that we do to help them to create the future that they're looking for as well. So as we start to explore these futures identities, what we're trying to do is move away from, we will embrace all the good tools. They are there for a reason, but we have all these tools and dashboards and control, and we need to move away from that control and move more towards coherence, balance, expression. Instead of trying to force or manage the future, we want to learn how to sense it and move with that flow. We're not trying to force anything. If we find that flow and we move with it, it is so much easier and so much more beautiful and expressive to actually go with that flow and then find what needs to come out of that, to draw out of that experience. So we're not predicting the future, we're participating in it. We know strategy is really important. In the work that we do in how we plan our own lives, strategy is really important, but we also need to think about the stewardship of what we're trying to do. We're not trying to control elements into the future, but actually look at the future as the people who are going to be in it are our partners right now, the unborn, the unknown, the unexamined opportunities, the unheralded voids that are out there in front of us. We have stewardship over them, and we want to consider our outcomes over time, not just our strategic advantages against anybody else. So time actually becomes a stakeholder in the work that we do at the moment. And identity is really important, but it's not just the technical digital identity that everyone else can see, but it's more what is beneath that, the integration of all parts of our lives. We're not separate. We're not separate parts. We all come together to create something, and it's not just every part of me that comes together. But when I work with Mike, when I meet with Ian, when we come together in a meeting like this, we are integrating our experiences to create something new for the future. And when you work with your clients, you're doing that as well. It's not just a transaction, it's an integration of what you have and what they have. And that is how we look at the whole system and how we become more conscious about the work we do, about conscious leadership, and about a conscious future. So what is this future that we want to design, and who are we in this future? So let's explore that. Who do we want to be in the future? And there are new identities that we can explore. And we'll go through these 5 of them. These identities allow us to tap into different realms, to use our imagination, to explore who we could be. We can assume these identities. We can play with any one of them at any one time. But at some point, they kind of all come together in us. And maybe we want to learn to name them and express them or be more intentional about these identities instead of just accepting the inherited identities we already have. So let's start with the very first one, the steward. The steward holds time, looks at what we're looking at the moment and into the future. And we have the sense maker. The sense maker looks at the patterns. We're going to explore a little bit about the synthesizer. Then we have the shifter. And lastly, the source of everything that we're using to explore the future. I'll take it slowly. I'd love you to use the pause or to imagine for yourself what these different identities could be. There isn't going to be a handout. There isn't any, at the moment, any actual article you can look at. So this isn't a checklist. It's just time for you to imagine what this could look like for yourself. So the steward is a person who is aware of time and the responsibility that is passed to us and passes on from us to others in terms of the work that we do, what we engage with, the relationships that we have. The steward acts with legacy in mind, looking to the future and wanting to know how what we do creates something that is meaningful and long-lasting. We're not just focused on the next tweet or the next quarter's results or the bottom line. We're looking at a future that we can create that is inhabitable for those not yet born, but that embraces everyone. A futures plan or scenario that only honors one group of people is a very poor plan. And the steward makes sure that we don't forget those people, those voices, those parts of the world that should be included in our conversations and in our plans. So how do you act as a steward in your personal life? How do you act as a steward for that relationship that you have with your clients as you're working with them? How do you get them to consider the future and what they are exploring for themselves and their work? The next identity we move on to is the sense maker. And the sense maker identifies patterns. The sense maker can identify the template behind what is seen or written, the template behind a TV series that we're watching, the plot behind a book, the motives, the anxieties, the fears and concerns behind a person's actions and words. The sense maker looks for coherence amid chaos. Where everyone else is getting stressed and anxious, that sense maker has a deeper understanding of what is actually happening, the signals and what they imply, and what could be coming down the line. Again, not predicting the future, but trying to understand the flow of what is happening. And the sense maker has a better idea of that, especially if they paid attention to what the steward is looking at in terms of time and space. So we can see the patterns, we can identify them, we can respond to them. We work out how to respond to those anxieties and fears of other people, of our own. We can sense the ebbs and flows in our own energy and our own lives. And that is what the sense maker brings to you as you think about your future. And then we have the synthesizer. The synthesizer looks at those disconnected silos in our lives, in business, and brings them together to create a symphony, brings them together to create something realistic and useful out of all the data, out of all the patterns. A synthesizer brings together different parts of a person's life and experience, what they've inherited, and helps them to see how that forms who they are today and why it is they want a certain kind of future or what they're trying to avoid in the future. When we're looking at business, the synthesizer brings that all together to use foresight, futures thinking in a business, in an organization, so that it becomes part of the DNA, so that it gets formed, so that it gets molded, that it's going to go in a particular direction. Then we have the shifter. The shifter is a shifter of culture. The person who changes those invisible scripts. One of the tools we use in futurist thinking is called causal layered analysis. It's a big name for a very simple tool. Beg your pardon. So a causal layered analysis, and what it does is it looks at the different layers and how each layer produces the results at a higher level. So right at the top, we have what is visible, the litany, the data, the things that we're trying to look at. And very often we try and change that if we're not happy with what that information is. But beneath that data are the systems that create that data. And we need to change the systems, and then it'll automatically change the data. But the systems are based on a worldview, and the worldview is based on myths and metaphors. And this is what we're addressing right now. What are the myths and metaphors? The ways you talk about yourself, your work, the ways your clients talk about themselves. What are the myths and metaphors we say about ourselves? And how do we need to shift that? That is what this identity does. So for some people, we're looking at a worldview where there's not enough, there's scarcity, it's very competitive. The winner takes all. The strong man is the one who is going to have all the power. And that is based off this metaphor of an aggressive world, a world that is not friendly to us, a world that we have to struggle to survive, where we have to beat down our neighbor in order to have what we need. And if those are the myths and metaphors that are at the foundation of our identity, then what we're going to see at the top is a very aggressive, competitive world where there's a lot of people left behind and where people in power feel like they can use that power for themselves. We can't change that at the top. We have to go right down to the bottom to understand what those myths are and change them. How can we co-create a conscious, intentional future that embraces more people? Can we talk about that? Can we explore what that might look like? And when we do, we start to create new stories and we evolve a new worldview. And the systems we create will come out of that worldview and the results will be automatic. Again, instead of trying to force the future, we're allowing it to just organically evolve from what happens at the bottom layer, at the stories we tell ourselves about the world. And that is what the shifter looks at, changing those invisible scripts and reframing the narrative, reframing the stories that we're telling. But the shifter can't do any work unless we've done work with the source. And the source is what is absolutely internal, our inner world, our inner navigation, how we feel about the world. We need to be grounded. I love that analogy of roots and wings. We can't fly unless there's some kind of grounding that we have so that we can move away and then come back. So we need to know what that inner sense is of who we are, what our identity is. We need that clarity. We need resilience to overcome the ebbs and flows of life. We need to really interrogate our ethics and know what we believe and what we will stand for and accept or resist. Once we have identified that source, again, naturally, organically, out of that will flow everything else that we're doing. If we are trying to force anything, then that's a problem we should be addressing. If you're trying to overcome resistance to doing work, to making a decision, to addressing a relationship, if there's a resistance there, don't try and push through the resistance. Step back first and examine where that resistance comes from, because that is telling us something about what our motives are, or some hurt that we haven't yet examined and addressed in our own lives. So the more we spend time in that source, in our own inner world, really understanding what it is, who we want to be, how we want to express that, then out of that will flow everything else that we're exploring. I know that there's a lot of people on this call that actually deal with this level of work. But if you're not, this is a place that you should maybe spend some time today exploring the source of how you identify yourself and the work that you do and your place in this world. But why? Why are we doing all of this work? Why are we looking at these different identities? It's for ourselves. It's for the work that we do, the business that we have. But when we embrace these new identities, when we explore them intentionally, we find ways to make meaningful conversations. So instead of just exchanging information, we really get to pause and hear another person and to share something that is meaningful in that moment. We can design work offerings that are transformational, that are lasting, again, that aren't just widgets or tweaks that come and go, but something that actually fundamentally changes something else. That's why we do this work. And we build lives for ourselves, and we help our clients to build lives that are coherent and creative and worth living, not just trying to keep up with the machine, not just trying to serve the KPIs or the bottom line, but actual lives that are meaningful, creative, and coherent. So where do we see this in business? We see businesses becoming living ecosystems, not just profit-generating machinery. These businesses are guided by foresight, looking into the future, guided with humility and ethics, because we see ourselves as part of this ecosystem and not as in control of everything. There is a narrative coherence that what we're talking about in the business, about why we do the work that we do, is coherent with other parts of our lives. Decision-making becomes so much easier because we're now far more aware of the ethical standards that we're going to operate by and the reason why we do the work. So decision-making, again, flows naturally from the work that we've done and how we see ourselves. And our success is in resonance, in creating some kind of connection, again, not just in profit. In our lives, we see these identities express themselves because leaders now have that inner compass, that inner identity, so they know where it is they're going. They rediscover rest and restoration and reflection and creativity and realize how important those elements are in the work that we do as leaders. Taking time for that reflection, taking time to understand things, to think deeply about something is the work that we're bringing to our leadership roles. One of the things I discovered in the leadership roles that I've held over the last couple of years is something I've named the unheralded void. It is the thing that did not happen because good leadership decisions were made. It is the crisis that never occurred. It is the disaster that no one's ever reported on because it didn't happen, because of the deep reflection and time and diplomacy that has happened behind the scenes so that something is avoided. That isn't seen by the outside world, but we get to understand that when we work with people and we see what has happened, what has gone into their decision-making process. And instead of trying to strive for certainty and to be right and to be seen to be right, we're happier in our leadership roles, in our lives, cultivating trust and respect with each other. So that's business, and it's life, and it's in meaning, in the meaning that we have. Leadership becomes a spiritual practice, not religious, but meaningful, integrated into something that came from the past and goes long into the future, and is not just a blip on a radar or just a name on a list of people who've held a role. That our leadership creates something for the future that outlasts our own lives. To be a steward, a sense maker, a synthesist, a shifter, or a source is to engage with a constantly evolving understanding of the world. So this is good, but how do we do it? And I'm going to give you just this one very simple model to consider. There's no homework here. Right at the bottom of our evolution of understanding about ourselves in the future is our mindset. And what we're talking about today is that mindset. How do we think about ourselves? Once we have developed the mindset for being a conscious, intentional futurist, to be intentional about how we see our identity, beg your pardon, only then should we start playing with the tools, because the tools won't help us if our mindset is wrong or flawed or anxious or fearful. There are a huge number of tools. You have the tools. Circle of Excellence has the tools. There are plenty of them anywhere that we can go online. And there are some unique tools that are designed for futures thinking as well. But whatever those tools are, we need to learn how to use them and to apply them intentionally with our mindset to create the future that we would like to see come. And then at the top of that is skill set. So let's review those, because that is your only model that I'm giving you today. The mindset. How aware are we of where we want to be in the future, what that looks like, where we've come from in the past, how we want to express ourselves. How honest are we about our own mindset, and how well do we understand our motives and triggers? If you really want to have your world rocked, message me privately and I'll send you a prompt for AI, one that you've worked on frequently. And it explores and digs deeper and uncovers over and over and over again your motives and the origin of how you think. I tell you, I tried this 2 weeks ago. I am shook. I'm still recovering from what is being revealed to me that I did not know about my mind and my beliefs, even though I've really looked at this deeply and intentionally over the years. So our mindset, how aware, how open are we to learning more about ourselves? Then the tool set, how do we apply this? How are we intentional about the future? A lot of people feel like they can make plans and strategies, but we can't really change the future. But then we love to watch those science fiction movies where somebody goes back in time and they step on a butterfly and it changes everything. And there's some really bizarre science fiction stories out there. But just think about that butterfly. Think about that butterfly in your life today. There's something that you can do today, an action you can take today that will have those ripple effects and will fundamentally change the future. And if you don't step on that butterfly, if you don't identify that butterfly, if you don't even think about it, if you ignore it as it flies by, you're missing the opportunity to be intentional about co-creating a preferred future where we could all be. So use those tools and express it. And eventually, the more we use the tools, the more we trust ourselves. We get to integrate all of this into a skill. And that skill is a way of looking at the world, looking at the future, having conversations, holding space in those relationships where someone else is going through something. We don't do that automatically. That is an intentional skill we need to develop so that we can do better work. And that skill set is based on the tools we used, which is based on the mindset, which is based on the identity we have for the future. The future is not a destination. This is not an unpacking to discover something. There aren't any goals here. This is a constant state of curiosity, a constant state of creating, of discovering who we are and what we want that future to be and how it is we work with other people. And that comes from the identity of how we see ourselves going into the future. Thank you for listening to this exploration I have into these identities. The future is co-created. I've said that a couple of times. So I invite you, if you would like to join me at any time. I have a futures coaching sandbox where we come to play, where we come to explore these ideas and to discover it is how we think about the future and how we want that future to unfold. I see lots of comments in the chat box. Maybe we can take some time to explore those. Thank you, Mike.
Charlotte, thank you so much. That was really interesting and really good, I thought. Steve's asked if you can post the prompt in the chat. So I'm not sure if you can. I love the 5 icons, if you like, or archetypes of the steward, the sense maker, the shifter, the source, and oh, help me out. What's the last one?
Source is the last one. So
Oh, I missed one then. Yeah, but anyway, you've got it. So any questions, comments, etc. for Charlotte?
Shifter, thank you.
Oh, the shifter. Yeah.
I think that you've articulated beautifully in the language of CEOs the invisible realm and the abstract realm that underlies things that are propelled forward, or the mystical side, without making it sound frightening to people who don't like to go there. Thank you. I think beautiful. It's been a privilege to hear you articulate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's good. Anyone else? Thank you, Moira. Well said, by the way.
Inga, LinkedIn, absolutely. And I will, what I'll do is I'll put these chat GPT prompts into the, Mike, what do we call the community?
Into the private members club.
The members club, yeah. Cool. I'll post them there.
That will be great.
Yeah.
Charlotte, I had an insight just as you were talking about this. Recently, I've just been kind of down a bit of a rabbit hole, but it was looking around at how people, we think that we need to change, like in order to change behavior, we need to learn new skills, we need to do things, but most of the time it's all sitting already within us. But our actions are a function of our identity. So if you want to change, you have to interrogate and get down to the core and essence of who you are around that identity, because all your behavior keeps coming back to, is it aligned with that view of self?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I thought, like what you're talking about here just kind of seems to resonate into that.
Yeah, absolutely. Moira, you're saying everyone looks outside. If you want to have a look on my Futures website, it's I'll post it here, Futures Alchemist. Ian, could you do it for me? Futuresalchemist.com. On the blog, I posted something yesterday about this tool called causal layered analysis, and it sounds like a bit of a mouthful. But it really is looking at those layers. And like I said, we're looking outward, we're looking at the top. If our sales figures aren't good enough, we try to incentivize people to make more sales. But it's all based on what comes to the bottom, at the bottom. And once we go down there, we don't just go like I did with the chat GPT prompt. Like the first one is you go down, you go, oh my goodness, this is what is down here. But then we reframe that. We intentionally choose what we're going to say and do differently. And then everything else flows back up from that again. So on the blog, there's quite a long explanation of that. And if you'll allow me to brag just a moment, the man who developed that tool is called Sohail Iniatullah, and he's a foresight practitioner based in Australia, but he's done some incredible work with a whole lot of universities. And through a series of conversations, I discovered that a short video that I made, which is actually on that blog post, but a short video that I made, Sohail found and referred to someone else and said, see, causal layered analysis isn't difficult to understand or explain. And so he's pointing people to my video to explain his tool, which I was very proud of, I have to say.
That's wonderful. Really good stuff. People are clapping. That's good. Oh, we've got a trumpet. No, hang on. That's something Stephanie sent, balloons going up or something. Oh, here comes more claps. Charlotte, thank you very much for today. We've got your LinkedIn in the chat. We've got the website there. You pop the prompt in the private members club. I think that's really useful. I think people really enjoyed this. It gave them a different perspective on how to look at themselves and the role that they're playing in the future and the roles that others are playing around them as well. So appreciate your time, appreciate everybody's time. By the way, we do put up the recordings of all of these in the private members club, so you have access to these and everything else that's been recorded there, so you can go back through the archives and have a look at that. And Put your own comments up there if you know, Ingy, you liked, really enjoyed Charlotte this morning, as did many. You know, that's a great comment. You know, I'd love to see that in the private members club as well for Charlotte as well, because it lets people know that we're all engaged and, you know, it's more than just a bunch of people sitting on social media. Charlotte, thank you. Everyone, thank you so much and have a wonderful day. Bye all.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you